How do you deal with negative people? Now, wait a second, don't jump anywhere because maybe you think you know the answer to this, but I have a different take on it. Because you know what, today it's very popular for people to tell you, well, just get rid of negative people. Never be around them. Just be around positive people all the time. But what happens when the negative person is your spouse or your brother or your sister or that guy at work you have to sit next to every day, dude? What do you do when real life is here and we're not in some la-la land of personal development where everybody's positive and perfect? Because you and I both know there are people out there who are very critical, who will be harsh with you, who will try to find every little thing they can to comment about you, or they're always complaining about the weather or the news, and just their energy makes you want to just like repel. That's real. And sometimes you can't get rid of those people. And sometimes, in my personal opinion, I don't know, somehow the advice of just get rid of everything in life that you don't like seems a little weak-willed, if you know what I mean. You know, it's just like, gosh, yes, it's wonderful that we have this new modern age of ease and convenience, and there are lots of options for us. But you know, we also have to develop our character. So let me tell you my thoughts about number one thing you should do when you got to deal with negative people. Use it. Use their energy, use that energy they put out there, use that challenge for your own character development. Really. See, when someone's negative around me, I don't sit there and I don't become a victim. Oh gosh, they're such negative. I don't go home and assume their energy and now I'm negative. Instead, I go, you know what? This is a moment to test. Am I really in command of my emotions and how I think, or are they? Am I giving my power over to the world so that they can just take my energy and turn it to what they want, or am I in charge? So I use it as a challenge. Not as something, I don't have to challenge or change them immediately. I'll get to that point. But I get to the point where I say, you know what? Here's a little challenge the world's throwing at me right now. Can I stay on my game? Can I stay centered? Can I stay peaceful? Can I stay calm? Can I stay present right here, right now, and not have to run away from it, not have to pretend it's not there, but use it? And I encourage you to do that. Because if it's just something that you immediately complain about, well then, in your complaint, you just let them win. Their negativity has turned you into noticing what is negative, and you lost. You're not winning. Even if you can critically, throw a barb at it, make fun of it, you're still losing. You're being sucked into their pools of pessimism. You're drowning. So I say, use it, recognize it, and use it. Second, I say this, empathize. You know, a lot of people who are being in a negative mood or negative energy, you don't know why. You know, you've had a bad day too. You've been rude. Yes, I know you're amazing and you watch this show and you're really into personal development, but at the end of the day, you've been rude to people too. You've had a bad day. You've snapped. You've been impatient. You've hollered. You've been a jerk when you shouldn't have been. You know it. Well, other people do too. So when somebody is negative, always I wonder what happened today that led to that. You know, maybe the kids got out of the wrong side of bed and they were just horrible that morning and that person didn't sleep last night. Maybe something happened with their family. Maybe on the way to the work, they just thought of something very depressing in their past. Maybe the truth is, right now, they're so unclear about who they are and what they want in life that they're taking out on other people. Maybe their own failures, their own struggles, their own disappointments have ravaged them and led them to, depression, led them to mental disorder. The reality is we never know someone's story. And once you can teach yourself that, I really believe you become a better human. You become more compassionate, you're better at listening, you're better able to understand because you have the intention to sympathize and say, oh, that person's really in a bad place right now. You don't take ownership of that, say, well, I didn't cause it. You just say simply, they're in a bad place. I hope they're okay. I think it's a real, true personal power to be able to walk by negative people and still say, I wish you nothing but joy and health and strength and love in your life. To have that hope for people, even when they're in a bad place, that's humanity. I would say number 3, go for it. shift it. It's one of my favorite games I play in my entire life. When there's a group of people around me and they're in a negative energy, I love to try and shift it. Not by telling them they're in a bad energy, but by trying to introduce humor, trying to introduce something, pointing out something that I'm grateful for, that I appreciate, making fun of the situation, teasing, making fun of myself. Whatever I need to do, I take it as a challenge to how can I say something stupid that makes them kind of shift their energy. I call it leveling up. So it's like when you're around a group of people and their energy is down here, can you level it up? Not by accosting them and saying, your energy sucks, I hate you, but instead by introducing the positive into that negative situation. Because you'll find that if you'll do those first couple steps, you really focus on using that situation to test yourself and that you're still empathetic. Then when you come in and you try to shift it, it's just like, wow, you'll really develop people skills. You'll really develop the ability to lead. You'll really develop the ability to start movements to make a difference, because nothing shifts the world more than you shifting your energy to complement or to serve the world. So give it a try. Try to shift that energy. And last piece, which I think is really, really important, is do not fear making the request. Saying to somebody straightforward, especially if they're negative all the time around you, don't blame them, don't be mean to them, don't belittle them, don't hit them with negative energy. Instead, make a request. Say this, you know what? I've just been having a hard time lately with my energy, and I know sometimes, you're in that place too, and there's a lot going on that's negative and everything, but can I ask you a favor? Could you just play a game with me and just try to be attentive to your energy and be positive with me, just for me? I know you're good and you got your own stuff. I'm just wondering, could you help kind of just increase the energy around here for a little while? I've noticed the team needs it. I've noticed the kids need it. I've noticed that I'm having a tough time, and I know you could help me out. And I just feel like the energy around here is too negative. Sometimes I contribute to that, and I know you have your tough times, but I wonder if together we could just say, you know what? Let's be a little bit more positive. Could we try? And just enroll them. Don't blame them. Don't minimize them. Enroll them. Try these ideas. I know it's difficult when somebody who's in your family or somebody who you work with every day or somebody who you care about isn't as positive as you. But you don't have to throw them out like yesterday's garbage. There's always going to be negative people. So the question isn't, can you get rid of all of them? There's 7 billion people on the planet. That'd be getting rid of a lot of people. Instead, learn to use it as something that develops your strengths as a human and allows you to serve people and for you to inject more positive energy into the world. Do that more often, you'll experience what we call the charge zone. What do you do when the inevitable adversity enters your life? A difficult situation, some bad news, you lose the job, the medical report comes in bad, something negative happens, something you didn't anticipate that just craps on your life. And all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, what do I do? When that adversity strikes, you gotta see it not just as, this terrible moment, but perhaps a called moment. A moment in which you are being asked to rise up, a moment when you are being asked, being challenged, being brought to task to be able to summon your real strength, to be able to summon more empathy, more love, more caring, more strength, more ambition, more go-to-itiveness. I don't know what it is for you, but when adversity strikes, I always keep a pretty positive head on my shoulders and go, okay, this is hard. I don't pretend it doesn't suck, but I have to be able to move through it if I'm going to survive. And I know you know that as well. So what I thought I'd do is just share 5 big ideas with you of how to manage adversity, what to do when it strikes. How do you deal with it better than maybe you have in the past? Because I know if you're watching this or you listen to this, you know that you're a striver already. You got some basics, you've got some resilience. It's harder now because there's so many things going on for so many people. It's harder to bounce back. It really is. When everyone's juggling so many obligations, so many ambitions, so many opportunities, man, when you stumble now, sometimes it feels like a real crash and burn. So what do? Number 1, have confidence, my friend. Have confidence. I know that might sound silly or like some, self-help motivational crap, but no, here's the deal. You've got to have confidence that you're going to deal with this, that it's going to go okay, that you'll turn it around, or that you'll confidently deal with it in a way in which at least you're okay with it. Now, let me qualify this. I don't mean confidence, meaning like, well, negative situation, you're like, boom, I've got this, I can handle this, ha ha ha. It's not like that. What I mean by confidence is confidence, real, genuine, authentic confidence to me simply means a belief in your ability to figure things out. That's all. When the stuff hits the fan, just go, okay, I didn't want that, but I'll figure it out. That's all I want you to say. I'll figure it out. I'll handle it. Things will be okay. This is difficult. I will survive. I know that sounds so basic, but if you don't frame everything else that comes after that, it's just too hard. It's just too hard. We'll get sucked into negativity. We'll get sucked into dread or into bitterness or into sadness. We just have to immediately go, oh gosh, okay, I'm going to have confidence. I know I can figure this out. Because you know what the reality is? You figured things out in the past that were equally as difficult or harder. Or if you haven't, if this is the biggest adversity you've ever faced in your life, guess what you're going to need to survive, my friend? Belief in your ability to figure things out. That's confidence. That's first stage. That's number one. Number two, keep perspective. And this is really important. Your adversity that seems so difficult, two things to know. Number one, you're not the first person to be challenged with that adversity. Out of 7 billion people and thousands of collected years of recorded human history, none of us are going through anything that unique. I know that sounds mean to say, but I've always found that people who really believe that their adversity or difficulty is so different than everyone else that nobody can understand, they become bitter, you don't understand, or they don't ever ask for help because they don't think anyone can understand them. So either they get mad at everybody else, or they push everybody else away, or avoid the very thing that could serve them, which is seeking some assistance, as we'll talk about. So what I'd like you to do is keep perspective. No one is the first person to ever get cancer anymore. No one's the first person to lose a child anymore. No one's the first person to lose a limb anymore. No one's the first person to be in a car accident anymore. Other people have gone through it, so keep perspective. Realize that, there's only two stories in humanity's narrative. That's struggle and progress. Lots of people struggled through what you've been through, but a lot of people have also progressed through it. So never feel alone. And realize too, with keeping perspective, remember the times in the past that you did have some adversity. You called on some kind of strength. You summoned something. What made you help you get through it before? What helped you? What helped you break through? What helped you deal with it? Can you remember those times? Think about that. What helped you before? What helped you before? Remember those times. It will help you keep perspective. You're not alone. You've been through some stuff before. Believe in your ability to figure this one out too. Next, big number 3, schedule action. I love this one. Schedule action. What it means is when adversity strikes, so many people just go, oh my gosh, that's horrible. And they sit and they wait and they wait and they wait. Or they lay in bed and they're depressed and depressed and depressed. And they keep hoping for something to change, but there's only 2 things that change your life. Either something new comes in, some new opportunity, new person, new luck, new grace. Something new comes externally in. Or something new comes from within. Some new power, some new strength, some new ambition, some new belief, some new resolve, some new willingness to fight and make it happen. Those are the only 2 things that change. Either something new comes in or something new comes from within. And I tell you that because you can't just wait and hope that everything gets better. Because if it's real adversity, it's going to require action. And what I tell people is don't kind of like sometimes act to deal with it. Schedule it. What are you going to do every single day? Even if it's just 3 goals every day to handle that, to deal with that, to cope with that. Just 3 things. Sometimes those 3 things are as simple as take a shower. It's sometimes just getting out of bed, taking a shower to start the day is a win. I remember when I had my brain injury, it was a huge struggle. Just basic stuff. Sending an email sometimes was a win. Making a call, making sure I ate lunch to keep glucose coming to my brain. Like simple things were wins, but I had to schedule things because left to my own devices, I wouldn't do anything. I'd be like on the 7th season of some show or something, You got to schedule action each day, especially when it's difficult. Next idea, I kind of preface this one, but it's important to tactically do this. Ask for help. And I don't mean ask for help when you are at rock bottom, all the stuff is gone, now you're bankrupt, now you're broke, now awful things are happening. Most people ask for help way late. Soon as adversity strikes, ask for help. The second help, if it seems in any way overwhelming, ask for help. Say, ask your spouse or your partner, hey, honey, here's what's going on. I don't know exactly how I'm going to deal with it. You got any ideas? Or if it's a big thing, go to your business partner, go to your team, go to somebody at work and say, hey, here's a situation. Let's brainstorm some ideas of how to deal with this. That's asking for help too. If it's very, very traumatic, ask for help from a professional person in the medical or therapeutic fields, psychological fields. Just get some assistance in how to think through things. Sometimes that's the greatest help we can get is, even just going out with some friends or some girlfriends, sitting around the table and say, hey, this thing happened on Monday. I wonder, can I tell you guys about it and just get your perspective and just listen? Sometimes other people talking how they're dealing with it or how they've dealt with it can truly serve you. Remember, you're not alone. You've been through stuff before. So have other people. And believe in your ability to figure things out, things will start to go okay. And then the last piece, maybe sometimes the adversity sticks around for a while. Honor the struggle. Honor the struggle. If you've been with me in my High Performance Academy program or any of my seminars before, this is a critical element, a critical mindset to all of success in life is to honor the struggle. As I said at the very beginning of this video, sometimes the struggle is put there for you. Sometimes life is happening for us to get better. And it's a demand and it's challenging and that hardship can suck, but know that struggle is necessary at this moment now. You got to deal with it. You can't avoid it. You've got to face this thing and say, okay, what can I move? What can I shake? Except the fact that we can't change everything. We can't influence everything, but we can change and influence our attitude, our actions each day. We can figure out something to move forward in our lives. And a little bit more that we get of those little things that we can move forward, a little bit more we feel confident again. The struggle is something to be honored because it's going to forge a greater capacity and character later on. So honor it. Don't hate it, because anything you throw hate at, that quickly amplifies into flames of fury. Instead, have patience with it. See it and recognize it as a necessary thing at this time of your life. That's why it's been put there, even if you don't want it. Have that mentality of like, okay, I'm meant to deal with this now. I didn't want to, but here it is. So how do I keep my confidence? What can I remind myself about perspective? How can I take some actions today? How can I ask for some help? And honor this entire process. If you do that, you'll survive this adversity. You might just thrive through it, but no matter what, it'll put you on that other end where you start to relive in the charged life. Today, in Growth Day, we are taking on the topic of handling conflict better. I know this is such an important topic because sometimes your relationships, they start falling apart. Sometimes some at work has you frustrated. Sometimes you find yourself getting an argument after argument. Sometimes you feel like hooked or triggered emotionally by what other people are doing. And you figure like, how do I handle this better? Because conflict and crises aren't going away, because building relationships are never easy. And so we have to ask the tough questions of how do we get better knowing that those things will always be there? How do we manage our internal state, our own personal development better so that we can be in the moment, be present, and solve things versus making them worse? Okay. My first teaching point today will cover the themes of almost everything else I'm going to teach today. So it's 3 simple phrases. Okay. 3 simple phrases. If you ask me, Brendon, help me manage conflict better for the rest of my life, you get, 3 phrases. Here is what they are. First phrase is shared future mindset. You know, when we enter conflicts, it's so often we get so myopic. We take things personally and we just want to win. So we want to just crush and trounce the other person and debate them and make them look dumb because our ego wants to be right. And we forget we got to wake up with that person tomorrow morning. Maybe that's your spouse. We got to go to work with that person again tomorrow because it's Tuesday. We got to, see that person again in our neighborhood. We got to, that person who we're about to have a conflict with, they're probably going to be there again. And once we can realize, oh, I'm entering a conflict. This is about to get, heated up. We're about to have some debate here, or you're already in it. If you can adopt the shared future mindset that, oh, we're going to share a future together. I'm going to have to see her again. I'm going to have to work with this person again. I'm going to have to deal with this probably again and again through multiple more projects in the future. Everything will shift. You'll approach the conversation differently, more strategically, more thoughtfully when you keep the future in mind. Usually what happens in the moment of conflict, we just throw out the baby with the bathwater or whatever that phrase is. I don't even know. I still don't know. Why would you say that? But you understand what I'm saying? What happens is you just toss out the whole relationship because you're mad. And the ego goes into self-identity, disconnects from the other person and from the future, and just gets in fight and flight mode. From that place, we've already lost. So deciding and determining we're going to have a shared future mindset is important. And importantly, if we're talking about relationship or partner or spousal, conflict, somebody who you really love, if the two of you have in mind, a compelling future together, right? You have shared interests, shared goals, shared adventures coming up. If you can always ground your relationships in the reality that you're building something together, if that pre-exists, then moving into a conflict, you're more likely to resolve it more quickly and amicably, right? Research shows even just having a couple have a conversation about something they're interested in doing or something good coming up in their future before having them talk out a difficulty makes that difficulty or that conversation of conflict so much more smooth, so much more short, so much less accusatory. It changes everything. Grounding ourselves in the future, I think is important. Starting off the bat with relationships, thinking, I'll work with this person again. I'll see this person again. I'll care about this person again. It can change everything. It can really shift everything. The second phrase I would say here is respectful process. How many of you have ever been in a conversation, in a conflict, and you were just trying to be thoughtful and try to be calm, and the person you're dealing with was not respectful? All right. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of hands raised here in the Zoom, at least as we're doing this. It's very, very frustrating. And soon as we lose respect in the conversation process, all is fair game in war. And so it's a very challenging thing. We have to go into conflict situations, but adopt this philosophy overall. I'm going to treat people with kindness and respect, even if they don't treat you that way. For those who don't know my background a little bit, this is a topic I really love because, if you don't know, my master's degree was in communication studies, and I focus mostly on leadership communication. And in that process, though, I got to do a lot of mediation, and including peer mediation. So I was mediating, students in college having conflicts. I was mediating, professors and students, administrators and professors, local community members and administrators. Like, my job was literally two people come in a room, they are in conflict, they cannot resolve it, they've already tried, they do not like each other, and here they are. I even did some court referred mediation, which in like a divorce case, they'd bring in the couple and I'd have to work with them. And mind you, I'm in my early 20s. And it was such a great training ground I mean, for 2 years, I just got to see how terribly disrespectful people can be toward each other, even when they both want to solve it. And a big part of mediation was teaching people in advance of a conversation that this process, we were going to keep respectful, that the expectation was that this is going to be a respectful conversation, because otherwise we couldn't solve it. And they already usually knew that. I've done a lot of coaching, as you know, over the last 15 years. I'm a certified high performance coach. And over these 15 years doing it full time every single week, a lot of times I'm dealing with conflict situations and couples, or conflict situations between co-founders. And soon as it devolves into disrespect, it is 10 times harder to pull it back. It is so much more difficult. And so you'll hear me talk about how you can maintain that respectful stance with your partner or the person you're having conflict with, but also know that the expectation has to be had in advance of the conversation. Sometimes you react in the heat of the moment without stepping back and setting the frame for the conversation. As simple as, if you feel hooked or triggered, saying, you know, could we talk about this in like 30 minutes in a much more calm way? I just need to go reset. And coming back with the expectation and the conversation. Let's try this again. I want to be more respectful with you. I know that we love and care for each other, or I know that we need to work together, or I know that it hasn't been easy. So let's try this again. Let's try to do this with kindness and care for another, and we can solve this together. I know we can. A simple reset into the frame of respect can change the outcome as well. And the third phrase, so the first phrase was shared future mindset. The last phrase was respectful process. The third one is empathy and encouragement. Now, we all know about empathy, right? We all know we're supposed to listen, understand, feel, sense their thoughts and feelings. We're supposed to reflect back how they're feeling and what they're going through. We're supposed to validate, maybe not their beliefs, but validate them as a person. We're supposed to really feel their pain or walk in their shoes. You've heard these phrases before, right? Empathy, people know they should do that. But in conflict, common sense is not always common practice. And that's why we really wreck relationships. And empathy is one of those. Being an empathetic listener, we'll talk about how, is so important. But notice the phrase, empathy and encouragement. Do you know what in conflict also goes out the window? I said earlier, what goes out the window? Well, shared relationship and the future. Well, the ego also can't see and validate and praise the other person, which is exactly what they need. We forget because we're hooked or we're upset or we disagree that the other person is, you know, if you're a spiritual person, a child of God, or the other person, you know, has extraordinary potential, or the other person has been through a lot in their life, or the other person is struggling. And we forget that people actually need a lot of encouragement. And you, I know being in GrowthDay, you tend to be the person who is more encouraging in your relationships. We know that from our research. You tend to be the person who's usually more of the optimist or more of the leader position, that you're the person who's supportive of others, more kind of others, and yes, more encouraging of others. But we forget that when we're angry. Who's guilty? Okay, a few of us. Think about the last argument you had with somebody. Did you praise them? Did you encourage them to share? Did you say a kind word? Did you appreciate something about them? Most people don't. They're on the attack. They're on the offensive. They think they are at war and they must win at all costs. That's the ego. That's narcissism. That's sociopathy. You know what it is it's saying, I must destroy this person because it's a zero-sum game. Either they're evil and I'm good, or I'm right and they are wrong, and there is no in between. And what that does is it objectifies the other person into the category of darkness and bad versus recognizing human frailty, human suffering. It strips us away from that common humanity. And if we let that happen with every conflict situation, no wonder we live in a divisive world where it's accusatory, where it's blaming, where it's the worst assumption about the other person. When in reality, what we really need to do is remember the human struggle, remember their humanity. You know, I know you all know this being GrowthDay members, but an encouraging word to somebody at the right time can change their lives. Let me ask this to you. Do you believe that it is true that some point in your life, somebody gave you some encouragement, maybe some praise, validation, respect, appreciation, honor? They kind of told you you were capable and it changed your life. Did that ever happen for anybody here? Ever? When someone encourages you, it changes your life. Well, then can't you get to the logical conclusion that if you encourage somebody in a conflict situation, it could change the tone and outcome of the conflict? If a simple piece of encouragement can change someone's life, couldn't a simple piece of encouragement change the outcome of conflict? Boom. Everything changes. The second you get that, like, whoa, encouraging another person in conflict could change the outcome, make them feel respected, make them believe in themselves, make them feel honored, make them feel appreciated, make them feel heard, make them feel validated in some way, even if at the content or topic level you disagree. This changes everything. When you can encourage another human and still debate a topic, now you're a mature adult. Before that, you're screwed. Forgive my language. Before that, you're locked into unconscious immaturity. And I don't say that flippantly. We've all been there. We've all lost our stuff in a conflict situation. We've all said things we regret. I'll remind you, no one here is trying to be perfect in GrowthDay. Our job is to prompt you with new ideas, new phrases, new mindset, new ways of thinking about things. But just think about this. The next time you're going to go have a strong or difficult or conflictual conversation with your partner or your spouse or someone you're in relationship with intimately, imagine if you just said, okay, we have a shared future together. I'm going to respect him or her in this process. And I'm going to make sure I encourage them a little bit. If you did those three things, if you entered it from those three frames, a very different energy happens in that relationship, a very different one. So a lot of these themes are going to come up. That was literally my first point. So all of that was my first point, which is the three primary phrases. Shared future mindset, making sure we have a respectful process and encouraging other. This will change everything. This can be your day for personal growth. This can be that day you committed to and you remember and you go, that was the day I got myself a community. I got better coaches. I committed to making my life the absolute best that I could. This is that day. Make today your growth day. Click the button on this page and sign up right now.